What if the most terrifying machine ever built by pirates was not forged from iron, but assembled from human bones? Not powered by steam, not driven by gears, but animated by fear, superstition, and the desperate need to survive. Long before engines roared and machines ruled the seas, pirate ships crossed a dark ocean guided by belief as much as skill. Out there, where storms erased the horizon and time lost meaning, pirates faced a brutal reality. When supplies ran dry, when winds died, when escape became impossible, ingenuity turned dark. Among the most disturbing legends whispered across pirate decks is the story of the bone engine, a contraption said to be built from skeletons, lashed together, mounted into moving frames, and repurposed as functional machines aboard pirate ships. Not as decoration, not as warning, but as tools. Some claimed these bone-built mechanisms were used to power crude pumps. Others swore skeletons were arranged into rotating rigs to haul sails, grind grain, or mark time during endless voyages. But all versions of the story share one chilling detail. The bones always came from pirates themselves. Men who had died at sea, men who had betrayed the crew, men whose bodies became part of the ship. Survivors later described seeing skeletal frames bolted near the hull, joints reinforced with rope and iron pins, skulls staring outward as if watching the ocean. They spoke of pirate captains insisting the ship moved better once the dead were working. Whether these machines truly functioned or not almost doesn't matter. What mattered was belief. Belief that the dead could still serve. Belief that a pirate ship powered by bones would never abandon its crew. Belief that death itself could be enslaved. And once a crew accepted that idea, there was no limit to what they would justify. Because when skeletons become machines, the line between survival and monstrosity disappears. And that raises a question history prefers not to answer. If the pirate ships were floating prisons, once at sea, escape was impossible. Every decision carried weight. Every failure had consequences. Pirates lived with death constantly. Disease, battle, starvation, and storms ensured bodies accumulated faster than burial was possible. When a pirate died, there was no land to claim them. The ocean became their grave, or worse, their afterlife. Over time, pirate crews developed a grim practicality. Nothing was wasted. Wood was reused. Cloth was repurposed. Even the dead were not sacred. This is where the bone engine legend begins. Old maritime accounts describe pirate captains obsessed with efficiency. Pumps had to run constantly to keep water from flooding the hull. Heavy sails required manpower crews didn't always have. Long voyages demanded mechanisms that could work without rest. And so the idea emerged. If living men could power machines, why not the dead? Skeletons were stripped clean, joints reinforced with rope, sinew, and metal pins. Limbs were lashed into rotating frames. Skulls were mounted not for terror but balance. Weight distribution mattered. The bone engine was never one machine. It was a concept, a philosophy. The pirate ship itself became a living structure, fueled by the remains of those who had served it. Pirate captains claimed this honored the dead, that they were still part of the crew, still contributing. The pirate crew knew better. To die meant losing rest, losing dignity, losing escape. Death no longer freed a man from service. It chained him to the ship forever. And that fear was powerful. Once the bone engine existed, discipline enforced itself. No pirate wanted his body dismantled and repurposed. No pirate wanted to hear his bones creak with the motion of the sea. The ship did not just carry the crew, consumed them. Once the bone engine became part of the pirate ship, everything changed. The pirate crew worked differently, slept differently, thought differently. The ship was no longer wood and sail. It was a structure built on consequences. Accounts describe bone-driven mechanisms creaking in rhythm with the waves, limbs rotating slowly as the hull pitched, ropes tightening, releasing, tightening again. The sound haunted the crew, a sound not quite mechanical, not quite organic. Some pirates claimed the skeletons moved on their own, that joints shifted even when the sea was calm, that skulls rattled when storms approached. The pirate captain encouraged these beliefs. Fear made the bone engine effective. If the ship survived a storm, it was credited to the dead working harder. If it failed, it was blamed on disrespect shown to the remains. Guilt kept the crew obedient. Silence kept them compliant. But the psychological toll was immense. Pirates began to see themselves not as men, but as future components. Every injury became a calculation. Every argument carried the risk of permanent incorporation. Mutiny vanished, because rebellion meant becoming machinery. And so the bone engine did its true work, not pumping water or hauling sails, but crushing resistance. The longer a pirate ship relied on the bone engine, the more it reshaped the crew's identity. Death lost meaning. Survival gained cruelty. The ship demanded bodies, and the crew supplied them through execution, neglect, or silence. Some captains believed the bone engine made their ships invincible, that a vessel powered by its own dead could never truly sink. Others believed the skeletons guided the ship, warning of danger through sound and movement. But no account ends well. Pirate ships rumored to carry bone engines often vanished. When wrecks were found, skeletal remains were discovered fused with wood and iron, indistinguishable from the wreckage itself. The ship had consumed everything. This is the truth behind the legend. The bone engine was not innovation. It was desperation turned ritual, efficiency twisted into horror. And once that line was crossed, there was no returning to humanity. Did pirates truly build machines from skeletons? Maybe not in the way legends describe. But the bone engine was real in the way fear is real. It existed wherever humans believed survival justified everything. Wherever authority turned bodies into tools. Wherever death lost dignity. The pirates were not uniquely cruel. They were simply isolated, desperate, and convinced that survival required sacrifice. And that belief has never disappeared. Even today, people are turned into systems, into numbers, into components that serve something larger than themselves. The bone engine was never a machine. It was a warning. If you were trapped at sea, with no escape, and the ship demanded bodies, what would you become?